Welcome to Warblog. Today we're looking at this Samarra scenario. It's one of those scenarios that falls into a sort of a what if, or it's not an actual battle in the sense that it's happening now, so to speak, in Iraq. I mean, if you follow the... well, let's just follow it now. Honestly, it looks like a tank with an ISIS thing on it, but I don't know what that flag is. So maybe it's something else. But anyway, it's saying that Hakim al-Zamili, the head of Defence and Security Committee in the Iraqi Parliament, has warned during a press conference that ISIS cells are preparing to storm the strategic city of Samarra, which is 100 kilometres northwest of Baghdad. So that's sort of what it is. So this is basically what it's based on. It's just this warning that they are building up to take Samarra. But it sort of goes on to sort of say it says they're currently massing in the Al-Fatha area, which I haven't really sort of marked that out. Security forces and the popular mobilisation units repelled a large ISIS attack on Samarra on the 8th of March. And it's the 11th of March now, and I sort of started this yesterday on the 10th. So, you know, they have actually attacked Samarra, leaving several dead on either side. You know, there's reports of sort of sleeper cells inside. It says similar warnings. This is why I did it, really. Similar warnings were ignored by the government before the fall of Mosul in 2014. However, this time the Iraqi government will likely take these warnings seriously and send more reinforcements to avoid repeating the Mosul scenario in Samarra. So that's basically what it is. I haven't put any popular mobilisation units in, so I'm actually going to do that now. I'm going to put it on pause and add a PMU unit. Run that. Okay, so I've now updated that. Now it says they've already done a strike, but we're sort of assuming to some extent slightly before that. Or the position is just slightly before that first attack. So the whole nature of this game, the scenario, so as I walk through it, is that the ISIS units build up. And so you've got this build up, and then obviously this one little unit can't attack this stack. Now, he would, in theory, get his sort of bonus. So they're not going to do anything, but they might move a bit further forward. Yep. It does say that they are amassing in the Alpha Fahata area, but I don't know where that is, so we'll assume that's here, but it could be over here or even on the other side of the Tigris. So we'll end their turn. Now they're not going to do anything, and so there's another one, so they're sort of amassing now, and this is a game really of balancing the potential and determining what to do. And I think the thing that sort of, so you get a whole bunch more on the third turn, so we can start, you know, sort of moving them forward, and all of a sudden we've got a threat. And you could say it's at this point, or maybe not, because they haven't done their first attack yet, that, you know, the Iraqi security forces start to sort of suggest that, you know, maybe this is something that they should be a little more serious about in light of what happened in Mosul, so to speak. But it's also a question of, you know, does ISIS attack before there's any sign of reinforcements, but they haven't got as much, or do they sort of sit there waiting until such a time then it becomes quite obvious that you know that something's going to happen and the Iraqis reinforce? So essentially, it's a sort of game of cat and mouse, really, in that light, in that respect. So we're definitely getting a sort of sizable force. And we could do our first attack. But what I'm going to do is one of two things. I'm going to basically do an attrition, and we can say that is the first attack, but also I want to just use it as a cheat to get the odds. So at the moment that would have been a 4-to-1 attack. So I'm getting my attack bonus on that. So next time I'm probably going to attack. Now the Iraqis can attack back, but they're not, because there are only police units in there and etc, etc. But they could do an attrition back. So I think we will try that at the very least. This is probably a 1-to-1, yep, but no damage. However, maybe they should have rested then. And so here we get a lot more units. And so I think it's sort of piling up into to generate the sort of image that I was hoping that it would, and that is of you know, this sort of slow build-up that the Iraqis have been informed of, and there comes a point or a time when it's too late to reinforce, and or it's too early to attack, etc, etc. I think I sort of made my point, but it's quite subtle, and I'm not sure that I've made it very well. But in this instance, I'm just going to actually attack, and I think that they're probably going to win, which is a bit of a pain, because I sort of hope that they would be a little more resilient in there. But let's just see. DE. So basically, in this scenario that we just painted there, they've now taken Samarra, and the Iraqi government have arrived too late. In fact, I probably played it as optimistically as optimizedly as I could have, and I've won in that sense. You know, it's sort of like Mosul, but I think one of the differences between this and Mosul was that Mosul at least had a fairly sizable defence force, and it ran away. In this case, they were sort of quite clearly outnumbered, whereas that was not the case in Mosul. They were not outnumbered. They were, you know, they had a lot less. But so and I think the thing that I'm trying to maybe bring to light here is the thing that sort of means that this isn't a really brilliant simulation is we already know in advance that there's sort of going to be a build. You know, there's going to be a response from the Iraqis. We know that there's this sort of organised build-up, so we pretty much know that then was about the time to sort of do it. Didn't really know the numbers, so I did that sort of probing attack to get the odds. I mean, I could have calculated them, but you know, I'm a bit lazy. So the thing is, the real-world scenario is a lot fewer unknowns, a lot more unknowns. You know, it's easy when you're just looking at it like this in hex format, but they have now got their reinforcements, and the people of Samarra are saying too late. Now, one of the things to say about this, I mean, it's not over yet, which is, you know, I mean, not sort of poignant in its own right. What I'm sort of getting to here is this: if you know, even in the light of this being a good simulation, for example, if you could say it was, they can't hold this place. So what they're doing, and if you actually read this somewhere, you know, they're actually planning to storm the strategic city of Samarra 100 kilometres northwest of the Iraqi capital Baghdad in order to destroy several Shiite shrines inside the city. And so we can assume that that's what they're doing now. They're destroying those Shiite shrines, and the Iraqi forces were just too late in this instance. I mean, if we'd arrived a couple of turns earlier. Now, I think that to highlight the point I was maybe trying to make, we could say, well, what would happen if I actually made these units available right from the very start, and then the player determined at what point, due to external negotiations that they were sort of simulating themselves inside the Iraqi parliament, did they commit them? You know, because I mean, as a player, the problem with games is people play them like games, and if you gave them to them on turn one, they would use them on turn one, and so you can't sort of say, well, okay, well, we think it's pretty bad now. But in this instance, you know, it's gone pear-shaped for the Iraqi government because they've been warned, and they were just one turn too late with regards to getting their you know, their forces up there to help defend. And you know, the police and the PMU units could have held on for a bit longer. They could have, potentially, but I think the odds were against them. They did their best at digging in, etc., etc. But that's that. So, I wonder if we moved that. So it's the ISIS turn now. Well, they're going to do their best to get in there and destroy the shrines. However, I think we can sort of suggest that they're also not so stupid to the extent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, that's a lot of units in there, actually. They're not so stupid to suggest that they might want to hold on. Well, let's do an attrition. One to 2, but it did some damage. Look at that, 1.6 damage against all these units. That will help. Okay. So ISIS, we should have possibly tried to intercept this unit. They're now destroying everything they can. That was a mistake. Messing it all up. Okay, let's just attack. An exchange. One to one. I think I can adjust this slightly by removing one ISIS unit. Now the problem is this unit's isolated on its own. I'm not going to attack it because it was a sort of a gaming mistake. But ISIS are looking pretty fixed in there. I mean, I can't really imagine them actually doing anything to get out of that. I mean, I can't imagine. So I'm trying to move this and talk. I can't imagine the Iraqis being able to, with what they've got there, being able to do anything. So maybe I'll bring on some more reinforcements after, just to sort of accelerate things. Because I think that they will be able to get. I don't think there's any sort of resurgence of ISIS. But they're just the fact that they've got sleeper cells and they've got, you know, sympathetic, you know, ISIS supporters in their country is the thing that is making this all relevant really in that sense. You know, because the prime president has been claiming they got rid of ISIS, but I just don't think you can, because ISIS is, you know, I think even from the very start, the whole concept of who ISIS are has been sort of blurred. It's just the people of Iraq, you know, whether or not they're wearing their ISIS hat, or whether they're wearing their, you know, honest farmer hat, or whether they're wearing their, you know, government voter hat. You know, it's the people. It's the same in any society. You know, and they're just sitting there and waiting for an opportunity, and the opportunities are quite large in Iraq and the Middle East, because of the degree of poverty to a large extent. I mean, if you're faced with not much else, not too many other prospects, it's not surprising really that people sort of will incline themselves towards, you know, violence like that, because it's so profitable for themselves, you know, in a lot of regards. But the point is, I can't see them resurging as a sort of the huge military nation-forming force that they were. Okay, well, we'll reinforce that. One more brave assault. Another exchange. And that's that really. Now, I'm going to change things slightly. I'm not going to sort of go much further on this. Basically, I think I'm going to add 2 more Iraqi units, possibly 2 more arriving in slightly earlier than turn 8, and 1 less, or 2 less ISIS units, I think, and see how that works. So much so that I've only done 15 minutes. I'm going to maybe pause it and have another go with those changed modifications. Okay, well, I've made some changes, so let's go back and play it again. So we now know the general background and introduction, so I'm not going to sort of labour with all that. It's one of the games, one of my favourite types of games. It's very slow and easy to learn. One other point, one minute. Yeah, Al Fatha is a lot further north. It's further north than Tikrit, and Tikrit is just sort of over here. So we know the sort of general the general parameters. Oops, let's play. I don't want to get too near at the moment. So they're not going to do anything. Not going to do anything again. Basically, I removed a unit that would have sort of entered on turn 6. So I'm not sure whether there were 2 coming on turn 6 before, or just 1, but we should notice, I mean, that is the turn that I've made an adjustment for. So again, we're sort of building up that sort of, when do we attack? Because there's obviously this build-up happening. So we've now got quite a nice solid line. So we should have fairly reasonable odds at this point. So basically turn 6 there's no reinforcements, but we've got these Iraqis coming in here. So I think ISIS really want to I mean, this is their big chance to do anything. Okay, we've got 4-1, and they've got a DR. with a fairly bad die roll. So even taking out that one unit, they've still got plenty to sort of achieve the objectives here. And that's interesting. They had a DR, and they were eliminated because of this river. They were unable to cross it, and that's not a brilliant thing. I'm going to actually make a note of that on my things to do. Yeah, so that's a sort of a fairly specific, I wouldn't say game error, it's oversight, because basically it's not aware there's a bridge there that could have gone over, so there's nowhere to retreat, and they're against the river. They can't retreat over the river. For example, if it was in this hex, they couldn't retreat across this river, but there's a bridge there, so they should be able to retreat. So I've made a note, but I'm not going to change that anytime soon. However, ISIS again in this model have managed to take Samarra. However, we have some reinforcements, but the problem for them is that they're on the wrong side of the Tigris. I did want to put one on either side actually. Let me change that as well. Okay, that's done. So ISIS are now busy again destroying all the shrines. We've got some more reinforcements here. Now these reinforcements, you've got to remember, I mean, we could have delayed. We could have thought, well, turn 6 we don't have enough, but clearly they do. But you might have felt that you wanted to wait until turn 7 to get these 2 other units in to come in and help. Probably worth putting something in here. So the Iraqi units now cannot get over that bridge, but we can try an attrition, and they did some damage, 0.2. Got to remember the irregulars are powerful in sort of fleeting offensives, but they're not very good in defence at all. But if they don't move, they'll recover that. However, things heat up. Okay, so the Iraqi forces are now moving in earnest. I mean, again, it's just a game, so there's nothing sort of particularly clever to sort of say about this. But I think if you could come up with sort of a lesson learned from it, so to speak, I think that would be that the Iraqis need to get the reinforcements to Samarra sooner rather than later. But that doesn't actually account for how they deal with the amassing of troops near Al-Ashriq, whoever it is. Oops, we forgot to do our attrition. Okay, so ISIS now, I think, are looking to use their units to block. Okay, we won't worry about attrition rolls. So the Iraqis having problems getting around this zone of control. Here, we've only got 3. I don't want to leave anything stacked on its own, so we're going to go through a straight assault here. And this indicates the sort of power of the armed forces, really, because I'm pretty sure we're going to walk straight over all of this. Oh, what did I do? I had to click the attrition button. I didn't want to do that. Okay, doesn't matter. So, we've now got some armoured units. This is why I sort of trying to sort of communicate, really, in the sense that you know, there's no way they'll be able to hold on forever like it was Mosul. You know, the Iraqis have just got too much hardware when they need it. But that doesn't stop Samarra falling and the shrines being destroyed. Okay, and we're going to do that attack properly this time. This tank can attack because he can fire over the river. So we've got a 4-to-1 and a DR, which means that we can move forward there. And push into here. A 7-to-1 and a DE, so that pushed them all back there. We can now see what we can do against this stack. Yep. So they're highly mobile and fairly powerful units, and essentially just push these ISIS units back. Little trouble, really. Okay, so that's that's the end of the Iraqi turn 10. You can sort of see the difference that just adding a couple more units has made. ISIS, they're now, this is the sort of situation I sort of wanted to be in last time, is the sense that they've done what they wanted. The earlier they do it, the more chance they have of doing what they want to do, because they haven't converted this yet. Let's have a look. So they've got another 16 points to get before they achieve their objective, so they're going to hold on for another round. So much so that they're going to push everything in there. Now I'm not sure they've got 16 units, but they'll, you know, they want to destroy all those shrines. And then one of the points I was really trying to get to is, I think I'm going to push a couple in here, or at least force them to fight there. The ISIS units will then have to make a decision to retreat. You know, I mean, it's not, again, it's just not like Mosul in the sense that they can really hold off. They're not going to convert it into another impenetrable fortress that's going to take a year to liberate. But the thing is, if it's as simple as that, you know, the Iraqis really can't afford ISIS to be, you know, capturing cities and then having to spend a year taking them back. So this is why I said right at the very beginning, this is a scenario that isn't quite real because it hasn't quite happened, but it's, you know, it's on the cards, it's sort of in play, it's a possibility, and that's what this is reflecting. So the Iraqis, there's been no combat there, Samarra's not fallen, etc., etc. But you know, it's interesting to sort of see, you know, the potential there and how those things can work out. So they've done their move. And that's now at 11, I think, or 14. I think it's 11. So they're getting there, but they're probably not going to be able to do it. It depends really on how much damage the Iraqis can do here. Well, we're not going to have a problem pushing back into here. So much so, I'm not even going to commit all my units. 7-to-1 DE. So I only needed 14. I put 17 in, so I didn't. It was probably just about right. So we pushed them back there, and this is probably for sake of just getting it over and done with. Going to push it now. They're going to be seriously reduced because they're going across the. In actual fact, I'm going to move. I'm going to move one of these units across here like that and do the attack, so that I don't want to leave them under sort of manned, so to speak, because otherwise they might get attacked by ISIS. But the more that's on this side of the river, the better, and hopefully we should be able to push them back. 2-1. Well, that's interesting, but we're not vulnerable to counter-attack, so that failure has basically allowed ISIS to almost put themselves in a position where they can achieve their objectives Okay. So they're now on 18. So if we don't get them out this turn, they achieve their objective. Of destroying the shrines, which I haven't written about in the write-up. Okay. So I think first things first, I want to push this way. Yep. And hopefully this should give us better odds than last time. You've got to remember they're defending and they're dug in. 2-1 DR. So that first 2-1 was a failure, but this time we have come out on the bright side of that, those odds, and taken back Samarra, and they're not going to be able to take it back from there. So we basically saved one shrine out of how many there were. I mean, they pretty much did it. So we can probably knock these back with impunity now. Yep. Yep, just knocking them back. Okay, so the ISIS, so they're basically all going to run away now. It doesn't matter where they go, and that's pretty much it. So that's the end of another scenario. We played that game twice, and you know, I think they're interesting like that because you can get through them quite quickly, and that was always my intent. There's always a sort of pressure, I think, to create more interesting and complex scenarios. But that, you know, it's quite simple, not too many counters, easy to play it a couple of times and see what happens. And you know, it's possible that the Iraqi PMU and the police units in Samarra could hold out a little longer than they do. It's possible maybe that you could get the ISIS player to attack earlier because they're attacking on 4-1. That's pretty generous odds. They could have maybe attacked earlier on 2-1. But again, it's about getting the manpower in there to sort of commit to destroy the shrines, etc. So yeah, so if you think that's interesting and you want to have a sort of blast on that yourself, then sign up and give it a whirl. I'll speak to you later. Cheers, mate.